quorum so we can start. And if other people come in, great. Like all the sort of relatively pertinent people are here. We're missing a few Public Site and Building Commission members, but we haven't heard whether all those people are didn't hear back. I think 4 of us said we were attending, so hopefully we have a quorum. So I'll call the meeting to order at 7:01. David Horvath has his flag in the background, so if you can stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That wasn't too bad. We're getting better at
Good thing we're not in a band. That's all I got to say.
staying in sync a little bit better, just in time to possibly go to in-person meetings. So public input. No correspondence. Everything that I have, and I'm sure that anybody else has, will be part of our specific project discussions. So meeting minutes, I will make a motion that we approve the minutes from the regular meeting of, I think it's wrong on the agenda, but April 13, 2021.
I'll second that.
So we got a second from, was that Roy?
Yes.
Okay, looking to see whose mouth is moving. So Roy seconds. Does anybody have any other than, well, the date is correct on the minutes. I did read through them. Anybody have any other input or corrections on meeting minutes? We're good. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? And does anybody need to abstain? Yeah, okay, good. I think we're good. So jumping into old business, our school projects. I'm actually going to, hello. It's time, 7 o'clock. Who lives near a bell? I'm going to start by saying that I actually went over on Sunday to the tours, the parent tours that were offered at both Johnson and Rockwell, and I went through Johnson, I went through Rockwell. That was a fabulous idea. The rain actually stopped, even though it was still cloudy out before things started, but they were pretty much all set up inside, but we did get to walk around outside, which was great. Everything looks great. The Johnson vestibule was open, which was kind of fun to be able to see that in a almost completed state. I think if there's maybe 1 or 2 small things that need to be done there, that's it. Terrazzo looks great. Even the patching of the terrazzo in some places that I saw looked great. Obviously the floor polish isn't the same everywhere, just because, you know, the new, you can tell the new part isn't as shiny as the old part, but so many other parts were great. And at Johnson, they were actually doing tours like you went around. At Rockwell, it was smaller groups of families just walking around on their own, but at Johnson, staff was there, and it was interesting. I tagged in with some families, and the kids were actually doing the tour. That the staff member would start to say something, and the kid would be like, "This is the 3rd grade wing," with a big flourish, and all excited because this is where my classroom is, and I'm going to show you where my locker is. And so the kids were as much into it as the staff. Staff were really excited about the spaces. I have to say, I have to give big kudos to Christine and her entire staff. The way that they've, probably not just at those 2 schools, but at all the schools, figured out ways of using spaces in a very creative way, because some things like the specialty centers, you know, the reading specialists or whatever, they can't have the groups of kids like they used to because of COVID. And the classrooms also have to be spaced out more. So they've really done a great job in using all the different spaces, which was explained by the staff, which is kind of cool, and by some of the kids that were walking around and showing off different things. So I don't know if anybody else got a chance to go over there. Even outside looks great. The railings and the amphitheater are up, and there's, like I said, handful of things here and there that still need to be finished. We'll get a report from Ken in a little bit, but I'm glad I went. Glad I got to kind of take a look at some things, and I have a bunch of questions just because. But I'll do that once we get our update and see where we are. So that was a great idea, Christine, and I think it worked out really well. Unfortunately, I think more people should have taken advantage of it, and maybe the rain kept some people away that maybe originally would have gone. But it was a great idea, and I think everybody that went was very impressed. And I think the parents, especially parents of either kids who are in the school for the first time or who haven't seen anything except for from the outside when they pick up their kids, we're just delighted. So that's a good thing.
Feedback was very positive, and
Yeah.
we had about 350 people come through Johnson.
Yep.
So we had them do pick a time because I didn't want them all to just descend at once.
Yep.
So it may have seemed like less just because of the structure of how we phased them through. But yeah, I agree. I think parents were thrilled.
Yeah. And at Rockwell, because they were kind of on these little kind of self-guided tours, it was just kind of a steady flow of people. And I was there more towards the end. But there was still a lot of kids going through with their parents and showing them. I think it'll be great. I guess they can't really use the cafeteria 100% yet, but one kid was like, yeah, we got to sit in the cafeteria once, and I had to sit at the table at this end, and my friend was at the other end. We had to talk loud to each other, and the teacher kept saying, don't talk so loud. I'm like, why even bother? So I'm sure they'll be excited once they all get
more than 11%.
What's that?
That's way more than 11%.
Yeah. Yep. Yay.
Hey, Nance, I just want to say that Rich Straighten and I went over there also on Sunday, and we didn't get a chance to do Rockwell, but we did Johnson, and we both left there very, very impressed with what we saw. Especially the terrazzo floor, the matching was actually darn good. I was really impressed with that. So the building itself, and even you can see what's going on with the outside landscaping. It's really going to be a showcase. So kudos to everybody for doing a great job. So.
Yeah, and I think I have to say that initially when we were in the design phase and even schematic design, I think there were times, Joe, when we asked questions about why are you putting that over there, or why is this space like this, and why wouldn't you just make it a space? And to see how spaces are being used in a creative way now, because we don't all know educational spaces, and you and your team do, it all makes sense. So, you kind of have to stick with when people know what they know, they're going to do it the way they know, and it came out great.
Yeah, we're definitely pleased with the results.
Good.
Thank you.
So then we'll get a construction progress and schedule update. Ken and or Jim, whoever's ready for that, jump in.
Okay. For the update, I have Rockwell first, and the wireless access points were re-terminated, and that was completed during the vacation week. The terrazzo floor patches at Rockwell have been completed. The entrance column covers were extended and painted. That was completed. The roof, he only has a few hours left to do it. He said he's just going to do it when Davit is approved, and he did get the I don't have his proposal, but he submitted a different type of davit that he got approved. So as soon as I get that, we'll submit that. That's for the tie-off point at the units that are too close to the edge of the building. The boiler room truss reinforced, we're working on getting that started. The stone at the timber rail parking was completed. The landscaper started hydro seeding yesterday. Dumpster enclosure just needs to have the gates fabricated and installed. And we used the permanent concrete coating for the existing foundations. That was completed. They were cleaning the concrete walk joints during the week of the vacation, and sealing for the salt guard just completed. And that's what I have for Johnson right now. I'm sorry, for Rockwell.
And is that all that needs to be done at Rockwell?
The only outstanding item is the sound screen. I didn't have that on here.
The final what?
The sound screen at the chiller.
Okay.
So is that, so the sound screen at the chiller, is that something that we're waiting to get?
It's a QSR item, and
Okay.
we're doing a joint check so that we can get the material shipped. So
Okay, so we're waiting on materials.
we are, yes.
Okay. And then I have a couple other questions. The roof at Rockwell, when I was doing the little walkthrough, of course, I could only see the lower roof from up above on the second floor. And there's a pile of flashing and coping up there and a pile of some other stuff. Is that just because they haven't taken it down yet? It's not that they're still installing stuff?
Yeah, there shouldn't be anything that has to be installed up there. Was that when you were out at in the art room, or where? I'm just kind of curious as to where you saw this.
The art room. I'm not sure what room I was in. I was at the end of a hallway looking down at a roof. There was ductwork and piping and some rooftop units, and there was just a pile of some metal, either
Okay.
flashing or
You
edge
can't miss
coping.
it. You can't miss it, Ken. It's at the back by the bus loop entrance there. It's
Yes, yes,
Yep.
yep,
It's
Okay.
that's what
it's
it was.
it's leftover materials from Young's, Nancy. We'll have them get that out of there.
So I was just wondering whether it was just leftover material or whether it was stuff waiting to be installed. So I'm assuming it's just leftover material. That's what you're saying.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And then, so I was wondering about you had said at the OAC meeting last week about hydro seeding happening this week. And I know on the bank, the lower bank that goes down towards Whittlesea, that had all of everything that was put on it last fall to make sure we didn't get a big washout there. But the larger bank across from the back bus loop, what's supposed to be the bus loop, which now parent drop off and pickup, that really steep bank has a lot of
Washout.
washout and gullies, and not big ones,
Yeah.
but small ones. And it's obviously not growing grass. The grass is growing in the larger area, but not on that embankment. Is that going to get reseeded also? And if it is, it should probably be graded a little bit first.
That was my same question, Ken, because the grading still was from last fall, and I actually was surprised they didn't hydroseed it back then. But, to hydroseed it now, I think that they have to really touch it all up again.
So do you know where we mean?
Yeah, they hydroseeded the bank.
That
They
steep
were
bank?
supposed to- They were supposed to touch it up, yes.
And that's just kind of a broad statement. I've been meaning to ask you the past couple of meetings on all the areas, that were done last fall. I'm assuming that everything's going to have to be touched up before it's hydroseeded.
And they have been going around to the different islands and supplementing and adding topsoil. But
And he was out there last Saturday tilling the areas, especially back of Johnson over there. I didn't
Okay.
see him do that big slope. All that was on there from last year was some overspray, so he did need to touch that up. We
Yeah.
had those conversations with him. When I was up there this morning, he was working his way back there. I don't know. We'll see what he did over there and we'll have conversations with him.
Okay, yeah, thanks. I apologize because I haven't been up there since last week myself. So I do
Yeah.
apologize and not just swinging by and just taking a look. But I know previously it hadn't been touched up and I just
Correct.
didn't want to have everything hydro seeded without
Yep.
it touched up. So,
Yeah, we made him aware of that. Whether he did that or not, we'll see in the morning.
okay, thank you.
Nancy, you have a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Hey, Ken, I forgot to ask you this morning, that pathway leading to the playground, the other side, the field, where you took the gates down,
Mhm.
will there be any landscaping done there where the fences were? Or is that the final product?
It just gets tied in and basically, graded so that it blends together.
Okay. It seemed a little slopey, and okay, I'll point it out to you tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it, sure.
Yep.
And then you said the truss reinforcement in the boiler room, the materials are on site and you're starting to get that stuff installed. Is that where we are with that?
We're working on, getting a crew together so that we can get that started.
Okay. And that's something that you're saying can happen during a school day because it's in the boiler room area and they can come in and out without having to go through the school.
Yes.
Does anybody have anything else for Ken on Rockwell? Any questions, comments?
No.
Okay, so then Ken, you got Johnson next, right?
Yeah. So for Johnson, we have the wireless access points were completed. The terrazzo was completed. The admin wall graphic, they did some repairs and they were not accepted. The media center wall graphic was completed, but with a different contractor, so that one came out nice. The phenolic panels at CW13 is the window all the way down the end of the existing was filled in. The fifth grade column, on top of the column, the capital was completed at the entrance to the fifth grade. Canopy, gutter, and downspout completed. The new concrete foundations were rubbed. The permacrete coating was put on the existing foundations. And again, the landscapers started hydroseeding Monday. I didn't see him too much yesterday at Johnson, but he's removing some of the screenings, preparing to remove some of the excess topsoil. The dumpster pad was relocated. The dumpster enclosure was completed except for the gates. And if they didn't come in late today, they're coming in tomorrow. The site contractor did the concrete joints and the cleaning around the ADA pads for the sealant and salt guard on all of the sidewalks. The painter did the canopy beams and columns. The ADA walk to the field has been started, and the soccer field has a scheduled completion date of May 14th. And that's it for Johnson.
Okay.
What was wrong with the admin wall graphic?
It was basically some of the letters didn't line up, and the joints had, to where you could see them, and you're not supposed to see them, and it was just had visual items that you could pick out, where you could go to another same graphic and not see those type of things.
Who's doing that work?
That was M&P painting for the,
So Dave, it's kind of like wallpaper in a way where if the seams aren't right,
Yeah.
either they're open. So in this one, both it didn't line up and it was like the seam was open and they tried repairing it by gluing it back down, but it's still not. I've seen the other graphics, the new graphics that were just recently put up over at Johnson, and you can't tell. There's no, visual. This one's gotta get.
So do they know how to fix this?
They have to replace it, Dave.
They
I
have
mean,
to replace it.
I don't think they can fix it. It's one of those things that they've tried, and it's because the O is like slightly off. So you see that visually, and then also like Nancy, Ken was saying, the seams are coming out. So if somebody like brushed up against it wrong, it could rip the wallpaper.
Yeah.
So it's very poorly done compared to the other locations.
So you're working on getting that redone, correct, Ken?
yeah, Joe's gonna look at it tomorrow and just give me something official so that I can get the painter to work and order a new one.
So I have a couple of questions too. So I saw that the dumpster pad was relocated, and that they've got the enclosure around it, but they still have to put the gate parts up. But to the left of the dumpster, if you're looking down at the softball field, to the left of it, and I'm remembering photographs that went around recently where there was kind of like a gravel path that went down to the field originally, kind of coming from that back parking lot, not the gravel path itself, but coming from the back parking lot. And then before you get to the dumpster pad and the dumpster enclosure, there was kind of like a gravel path that went down to the softball field, kind of into left field, not all the way into left field. And is that going to be put back? Is that something we want to keep so that that's how they go down with the mower, or how is that?
I think it has to go back because that's the only way the mowers go up and down. And if you don't, you're just gonna have ruts in your topsoil.
Right. Okay. So that's going to be put back in.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. And then in working around both Rockwell and Johnson, talking about putting the coating on the existing foundations, et cetera, something that we several times as building committee members, as we walked around in small groups over the project, seeing kind of gaps around the new window installation, et cetera. And we're told that there were going to be either infilled or caulked or somehow made so that there's not either water infiltration possibly there or any other kind of infiltration. I've seen some, but I didn't go around and check every window because I didn't have time. I didn't know whether all that was ongoing or whether that had been taken care of.
There are a few joints that we know of that we're getting the caulker back to do
Okay.
on both buildings. So yeah, we do know where they are.
Okay. Good. I had another question too. Oh, so, and this may come up later because we may have to talk about it. So at Johnson, looking at Johnson, the way off to the right, where we wanted the scrubby stuff cut down, and that was done. And it's a steep embankment that goes down. The scrubby stuff is cut down, goes down, and then you hit the fence that's around the stormwater retention pond area, which is working because it had water in it after the rain. And we talked about what to do there. And I guess are we talking about that later, or are we, because opposite that, when you come out of the driveway of Johnson, and again, there's an embankment there heading up towards the middle school. That's also a bunch of scrubby stuff that looks like it was cut down recently. And I mean, while not in the scope of the project, neither of these were in the scope of the project. I think there needs to be a long-term solution there, yet at the same time, keeping it cut down short, to me, at least going down that hill towards the fence that's around the stormwater retention pond, if it's grown up a little bit more, it kind of hides the fence.
Nancy, can I speak?
Yeah, yep.
Hi. Okay, let's take Johnson first of all. We're currently working on a planting plan for that embankment area.
Okay.
I thought I would have that planting plan ready for tonight, but my landscaper needs a couple more days. Because he's researching what type of greenery he can put on there that would give continuous, growth there and not have a lot of weeds to maintain.
Got it.
So I talked with Geraldine just recently, and I told her that we'll get that proposal very quickly. But it's going to be a planting plan where it'll be different parts of the season. It'll be different green stuff happening. And
Okay.
then in reference to across the street, I'm going to be meeting with Eileen very soon because there's a couple things that her and I have to talk to about islands and who's doing what, because we have more things now that are outside of my mowing contract. And whatever we do at the Johnson School, I like to maybe incorporate on that bank. So I'm going to kind of show her what we're doing on the growth plan.
Yeah.
Because that'll be really highlighted nice because, the way the landscaper was saying, at spring, you're going to have various colors of certain things. And then as the summer it goes in, and then the fall, there's another set of colors. So it's going to be really nice.
Okay. Well, that's good that that plan is in place, because I kind of looked at it and thought, okay, I can see it's not as scrubby, but we want to have something organized there eventually. And I know that while not part of the project specifically in that other projects that we as Public Site and Building Commission have had to do, where we've been told by planning and zoning, you need to have this many islands with this kind of planting and this sort of, and then it never gets maintained. So we know that it'll get maintained. We just want to make sure it's easily maintained and something that, like even we had to do all these islands at the library, but nobody, it's like they're all kind of like weedy looking right now. And that's
Right.
unfortunate. I know the garden club tries to get into it and all, but yeah, definitely something that will look great year round and also be easily maintained. So,
Right.
all right. So we'll see that next, whenever you have that completed, right?
Yeah, it should be shortly. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Nancy, I got a question about Johnson too.
Sure.
I
Yep.
do too.
We actually, Rich and I talked to Christine about it on Sunday, but at the top of the by the softball field, there's a gate that goes down the road, which is obviously to block the traffic. But if we're going to open that gymnasium up to the public, what about that gate? Should that gate be moved back? Is there going to be a sidewalk on the side of it? Because right now, anybody would have to crawl through the gate or it would have to be unlocked and opened up.
Well, John, I'm not going to lock that gate because I can't because the police go through there regularly after hours.
Okay.
And then also I have to have for the fire truck, obviously, in the ambulance. So I have to keep that gate just passed, but not locked.
Okay.
And
If
I
Park and
want-
Rec's going to be using the gym, they have to know that, you make sure it's being pushed open.
Right,
No.
and
Yeah.
we'll make arrangements for that to happen, John. What I don't want to happen is what happens at the middle school, which is parents use it as a parking lot.
Yes.
So they'll go around and they'll park
Mhm.
and just go to the playground or go to the basketball courts, and it's not meant for that purpose. Or
Right.
if they have a soccer game for their child, they'll drive around and just park on that, what is it called? Emergency access road.
Right, correct.
So we want the barrier. I would rather open it up when we have events.
Yeah, as long as we have a plan, that's fine. I
Yeah.
just want to make sure there's something in place. Because the parents in this town will go berserk.
So the other question I had, Nance, and Geraldine, I don't know if it's appropriate now, but I sent Geraldine a text today about some of the audio-visual equipment. And I don't know if there was a response. Geraldine?
I don't have a response yet. It was late, it was this afternoon that I sent the request
Okay.
over to Joe and to D'Agostino, but we'll get well, go ahead and explain.
Well, it seems that when they came to do the training for the different devices in the gyms, that things that we thought we were going to have, like Bluetooth capability, there was some additional I always say it wrong, ESC, right?
Yes, see.
Who did the training with the staff. said that they didn't have all the equipment to run the functionality of the systems. And these may be minor things. I'm pulling up the text right now. I don't know, but a Bluetooth receiver, cabling. So I just want to make sure that, I mean, we have all this great equipment that we should be able to use. So I assume that the same issues at Rockwell. I don't know, but.
Well, probably, and I didn't
Okay.
really address that.
So I guess if it's outside the specs, it would have to come in as a change order?
Right, so that's what so the plan would be to ask the design team to prepare specifications to enable the use of music in both gyms, whatever they need I gave them Allison's complete text, so whatever we need to be able to fully utilize that equipment, put together a spec for us, we'll get a proposal. I'm depending on what that equipment is, it probably doesn't need to go through ESC as AV equipment. It's going to be buy off the, Amazon kind of stuff, I'm sure. So once we know what we want to get, we'll figure out how we're going to procure it. And then we'll bring it to the building committee next time and say, we need another $500 for this stuff or whatever it is. So we'll figure out the scope and then we'll figure out the cost and then we'll get an approval on that.
So is it definitely stuff that wasn't supposed to be included, or we're not sure yet? We're still looking into that.
We're not, it's not that it was, we're not sure yet. I guess I'm not sure why it wasn't included. It sounds like having music, the ability to play music in the gym would be critical to holding gym classes. So why that wasn't part of the original equipment spec, I don't know, but clearly it's needed and like Christine said, it shouldn't be, we're not talking about big dollars. We're just talking about the ability to either plug somebody's iPod or iPad or something into the sound system. So I've seen this at other schools. It's really just it's a receiver. So
yeah,
that can then transmit through the speakers and everything. So we'll figure out what we need and go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Does anyone know how large the soccer field is going to be at Johnson?
It's regulation size.
Yeah.
I don't know what that actually
20 by
is,
70? I don't think so.
but it is regulation size.
For what?
Oh, Joe
For
is Joe
soccer.
Colada on the
An
thing?
elementary school or?
No, I
No,
think it's
for
regular.
a soccer field, a regular regulation size soccer field.
Right.
Okay, what is that number?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't
There is
know it
no
off the top
such
of my
thing.
head. I have to look on the drawings.
I'll see if I can Google it.
Soccer fields are like 60 yards wide by 110 yards long.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So
Well, I think
Give or
they're
take.
120 by 70.
This is
Yeah.
going to be 140 by 200.
This is what?
140 by 200.
140 yards?
Well, it says feet.
yeah, so
By
that's
what?
It says feet. It's got the feet symbol.
okay.
I'm sorry, say it again.
So I just Googled something and it says new construction minimum dimensions are 115 yards by 70 yards.
Mhm.
Okay.
New maximum dimensions are 120 yards by 75 yards. And it's got to be yards because feet is way too small.
Right.
So what
You
do
know, a football
Yeah, but they're-
field,
But they're little feet.
No, but it's not meant, I mean, it's meant to be a regular run. I mean, I don't know if they still do it, but when my kids played soccer, they played the opposite way. you
Right.
know?
Exactly.
and a football field is 100 yards, right? So
Yes.
Right.
So and when you play soccer on it, you play the end zones as well. So
Right.
it's 120.
Right.
So
David is correct.
what do we think the Rockwell field is going to be?
Johnson,
Johnson.
Field?
What did you say, Ken?
I'm looking at 140 feet by 200 feet.
that's not right.
140 by
Well, it's
what?
actually bigger.
It's got to be yards. It can't be feet.
Yeah. And even if it is yards, it's bigger than what?
In one direction at least.
Right, well, because no, in both, because the lines would probably be drawn within that space, correct, Joe?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get it open. It takes a few minutes.
Well, that's because you're in the gym.
Let's see. Where is it? Yeah, this PDF is very large, and I usually try to remember to open it before the meeting, but I didn't this time.
You need more gigabytes, Joe.
It's probably
A little more RAM, a little more.
it's probably everybody using the Wi-Fi in my house.
That's
But
why.
you're in the-
That's why I
You're
put
in the
in.
gym and you're in the gym, nobody's there.
Right.
That's why I put in 2 separate Wi-Fi accounts in my house. I had to.
Yeah, Ken is showing it's from the alternate 140 feet by 200 feet.
Really?
That's on the site plan alternates. Yeah.
Sounds big enough.
And you voted to extend the field, the extra 30 feet for the raw areas. When you accepted that alternate, it wasn't gonna be, Dave, I don't believe it was gonna be a professional size soccer field.
No, I don't think it needs to be. I just like to know what it's coming out as.
So difference between professional and regulation. So
No, soccer fields have no fixed dimensions. They can be all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they're saying. Between 55 and 80 yards wide and 100 and 120 yards wide, long.
Right. So
So Joe, you said 120 feet by 200 feet?
140.
140 by 200. So that's like 66 yards by 40 something, 45 yards by 66 yards, something
Yeah.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So Dave, what do you need to know?
that's it.
Dave Olson,
Yeah, I'm here.
you asked the question. What do you need to know?
That's all.
Okay.
140 by
thanks.
200 feet.
Yes.
Nancy, I have a question.
Rich, go ahead.
Sorry, been budget season, so I haven't joined you people lately, so that's over now. So thank you for all you've been doing to keep the project going. Dr. Carver or Bob Germanero, what's going to happen during the summer when Park and Rec uses that softball field down there? Is that gate going to be locked, or Bob, you said you want to open so the police can drive around the building?
Well, it'll be latched, Rich. It won't be locked. It'll be latched. But what Dr. Carver was saying before, if we see that there's people trying to pull in there to park, then we'll have to lock it then, during those big events.
People should be able to park in the Johnson parking lots, both Johnson parking lots on the front and on the side of the school, and walk to the softball field.
Correct.
You're absolutely right, Nancy, but you know what happens? They want to be close.
Well, they're
Yeah,
not
but-
going to be close.
No, and Rich, it ruins the road. That's what happened at the middle.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but I'm just trying to prevent that from happening somehow.
Yeah, that's why we put-
Nobody's going down there.
that's why we put the gate up. And so we'll have to assess
But
it.
if Bob was saying that he's just going to latch it. Well, if you got a softball game going on down there in the middle of summer, someone's going to unlatch it.
Well, if that happens, I think to Bob's point, I think we're gonna have to we
Right.
are gonna have to lock it.
Yeah.
Well, see, if someone gets hurt in that softball field, we're going to have to back the ambulance down there because there's a switchback road that brings you to that level.
But isn't there a certain type of lock you can buy, Bob, that Tom Gallagher told me about they can just drive through?
A breakaway, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
Maybe
don't know, and they may not need a breakaway. They may just need, if you put a lock on it and they have a key on it, they have a key to it. Whoever needs a key has a key to it. Or if it's one of those, it has a combination, they have the combination. I think that keeping it closed with a hasp on it is a way to start. If you start to see that it's being misused, then another decision is made by both Park and Rec and Board of Ed. It won't be up to us.
And I would suggest some signage that just says no parking on the access road at any time.
And also a one-way sign. So they
Yeah,
have to
or something, yeah.
put a one-way, do not enter.
And another like fire lane, do not park here.
That's what I had to do with Barry because they were
Yep.
driving around the back of Barry.
Yep.
I had to do the same thing.
Yep, so you put some signs up too.
Well, the police said they can't enforce it unless it's posted. So we may have to do that.
So definitely make some signs and put them up. Okay, we're gonna do some signs and just keep it closed with a unlocked hasp to start with. And then anything beyond that will be taken care of by Board of Ed and Park and Rec together, as possibly putting signs up may stop problems from happening. Okay,
Well, it's enforceable at that point.
great. Okay, good. Any other construction or schedule? I mean, Ken, you're talking about the soccer field being done mid-May. Does it look like most other things are going to be done mid-May?
Yes.
Okay,
The only thing that's out there right now would be the chiller screen. And that's because of our issues with USR.
and Joe Collada's coming tomorrow for a punch list check. Is that true?
Thursday.
Thursday, got it. Okay. Okay. Anything else on this little section here? So we kind of started with technology with the question about the AV equipment and like that. Is there anything else, Geraldine, on technology?
There is not, only to say that most of the AV work has been completed. We're going to look at a proposed change order in a minute for some additional, to change up how the rack at the Rockwell platform is installed. So we'll look at that. All of the wireless access points on the exterior and also the wireless access points in the Rockwell gym and cafeteria still have to be installed. They needed to wait until all the cabling retermination was done. And the next time that David Airy could schedule E+ to come in and finish that work all in one package is starting May 17th. So that's still hanging out there, but E+ knows that they have to come back and do that. And once all the wireless access points are in, they'll do a survey of both schools to make sure that that they have even coverage in both buildings in case anything needs to be supplemented. But all of the ESC work is substantially complete, including security. There's a couple of doors that were left that needed hardware changes that Ken notified me this week are complete. So ESC will come back in and finish those 2 doors at Rockwell, and we should be good.
Okay. All right, next bullet on our list is the Rockwell Boiler Room, which probably doesn't have any, John, I don't know if there's anything new going on with that, or we're just kind of in the holding pattern right now.
Well, actually, I got an email this afternoon from our friend, Mr. Beeler. The agency is requesting that he's going to take care of it, 4 more samples within the concrete floor. he told me to give him a call tomorrow, which I'm going to, but they need to pull 4 more samples. And he said there was no discussion about the disposed material that was sent out by mistake, which was a good thing. So we should have some type of resolution probably within the next, I'm going to say 60 days, but I'm going to find out about getting the sample, and I'll get a hold of Bob Geminero, so we make sure we have access to that when the time comes.
So,
Hey, John, drawing those samples, will that be a problem with the kids in the building?
I'm going to ask him that tomorrow.
Please do,
Yes,
because
absolutely.
that'll be a problem.
so who's asking for the samples? Is that part of the report process of getting the report
Yes,
filed and accepted?
they want to see the federal agency, the EPA wants to see some additional 4 more samples taken.
Okay.
I would,
So-
So you're gonna-
I would prefer that it not be when kids are there or staff, even though it's a separate area.
It may have to be on a Saturday. Do we have any days off coming up in the next?
The only thing that we have is, we have a half day the Friday before Memorial Day
So maybe that's a possibility of scheduling it then too.
and Memorial Day, but I doubt that'll work that day.
Right, no, but maybe that Friday afternoon might be a good time to do it. 'Cause
Okay.
it's only 4
So-
samples.
So, and when they take samples, does any kind of air quality
I have
testing
no
have to
idea,
be
Nancy.
done?
We have no
Well,
idea.
it's not
they have-
asbestos, right?
No, it's just for PCB.
It's been so long, I don't remember what we used to do.
I'll get more information tomorrow, so the next,
So Christine, it's totally up to you. As I recall, there is no requirement that no one
That's
be in
right.
the building either with the PCBs or when they're being disturbed. It's really, it's more a comfort level for what you want.
Yeah,
Um,
I would prefer to do it on us.
yeah, no, I agree.
Okay.
I agree because we don't want to get anybody upset. I'll get more information from Malcolm tomorrow, what's going to be required and if there's going to be any negative airs set up and so on and so forth. So
Okay, and that
I
would
can't
be,
answer that now.
right, and that would be good to know. And we, maybe if it needs to be discussed before our next meeting, you'd have that information to give
Yeah.
to Geraldine for the OAC. Next OAC meeting is May 6th, right?
correct.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, again, he told me to call him. I got this email probably about 3:30, 4 o'clock this afternoon. So
Yeah, okay. All right, good. So you'll stay on top of that. Great.
yeah, I'll go. Yeah, I'm going to call, give him a shout tomorrow.
Okay. So the next bullet is the federal tax credits. What are we supposed to do? I mean, there seems to be no rush just because it's for this calendar year, this 2021 calendar year. And there's that sort of third party, I guess, that they use to submit this, which is who was sending all the emails to finance and everybody else, and nobody knew what to do with it. So do we have to go back to that person, or what do we do?
So in my mind, the easiest thing would be if you were to agree that ESC as the controls contractor, if you're agreeable to giving them a portion of the tax deduction, then the easiest thing would be to make some, back of the envelope estimate of what's the value of the control system versus the entire value of the HVAC system, and then assign that percentage to tell them they can have 20% of the credit. Because I think what the third party reviewer is looking at everything that's due or everything that's eligible for the tax deduction. So whether you assign to ESC 20% or 50% or 100%, they've got to figure out what that is first. And then the document that they were asking the town to sign was just to say what percentage of the deduction is the town allowing this one contractor, or at that time, 2 contractors, to participate in. So it's still sort of up to the town. It's up to, and maybe up to this committee, but up to the town at the end of the day. It can assign anything up to 100% of the value of the tax credit. So I don't know how else you might want to determine what that one contractor is owed, even if, but maybe it plays into the fact that no one else is asking for any part of that tax deduction. So, you know, I think you got to determine a method and then assign it.
So somebody has to reach out to them, because I gave you a figure of 5,000 that they would give the Board of Ed a credit of 5,000 to use any way they wanted. I'm assuming that was for all the credits. I can't say that it is or it isn't. Somebody would have to call them and say, what did that 5,000, how much of the credits were they expecting? And then I guess my second question is, Bob, have you seen the proposal for, when we went to the training, when Dave and I went to the training, ESC gave us a proposal to take manual control over the outside air dampers. Right now, they said they're 100% open.
Right.
I don't know if that's such a good thing when humidity starts to rise outside.
That was a question I've been asking. You know, at
Yeah,
what
so-
point do we let go of this control a little bit and allow the AC to start to work?
Right.
So-
What they were gonna do is, they were gonna give you a manual override, a COVID button, so to speak, that would globally go out to everything, and you could set the proportion of the dampers, so.
So I think that part, unless this is part of the federal tax credit discussion, we'll talk about that a little bit later because we have that proposal.
I was,
So do you think it could be part of the tax credit kind of discussion?
that's
with
exactly why I
ESC?
was bringing it up,
Okay.
yeah, because
Okay,
their proposal, I don't have it in front of me,
Yeah, I don't have it either.
it's about $6,000.
I think it was 6,200,
Yeah, it
about
wasn't- it wasn't-
6,200
what-
apiece.
I think I replied to the email. I was expecting it to be about that much when I did both schools. It wasn't a huge amount. And it was supposed to be where Bob could actually override the outdoor and make it work.
Yeah, so it's 6,500, but it doesn't say whether it's both schools or one school.
Did you scroll?
I thought
It said both schools.
It was both schools in the
both
email, I
schools.
think. It said in the email, it was
Yeah.
both schools. I'll confirm that in a minute. Hang on.
Okay,
So,
because if we're gonna do it, it needs to get broken in half, one for one school and one for the
Well,
other.
no, because we talked about that too, Nancy. We're not sure if it's coming out of the project or is it coming out of Bob's operating. We were gonna ask Geraldine tonight on what's the best way to pay for it. Right?
So,
We
yeah,
talked
right.
about his office.
Okay, so how do you see it as being part of the federal tax credit? It would be the credit that they're going to give the Board of Ed. It could be part of the credit that they're going to give the Board of Ed for giving them the tax credits.
This is only a suggestion that we're all on the call.
Yeah.
Somebody approach ESC and say, if we give you the tax credits, will you do the $6,500 and $80 worth of work? That might be a cleanest way to do it. But you have to first find out what they based their 5,000 on. Was it all the credits, half the credits? You know, somebody would have to ask them, but this would make it go clean. This way, really, it's not coming out of anybody's budget, really, technically. Because the tax credits aren't worth anything to us anyway.
Remember, my operating budget got cut by 100, so I don't have a lot of wiggle room on anything new.
But you got schools. And you're not gonna make any repairs for a year, right?
Bare minimum.
Yeah.
You hope.
So with the, we need to know from ESC in their looking at wanting to get the tax credit, were they looking at getting, what percentage were they looking at getting? So that we have to find out. And what was their 5,000 based on? So I'm assuming that if the tax credit is a percentage of, and Geraldine, you were the one I think that said it would be a percentage of the whole entire HVAC, or would they just look at the control part and what that was worth, and it be a percentage of that?
Well, the third party evaluation is based on looking at the entire energy consumption system. So all parts of the mechanical systems that have to do with energy, heating, cooling, lighting. So they're looking at the amount of reduction in energy usage based on a baseline, which may be code, or whatever the code thresholds are, or something else. So they're doing a study to prove that this new building or the new equipment in this building saves a certain amount of energy. And if you hit the right metric, you can qualify for a tax deduction of up to $1.80 a square foot. Now, so I guess between the two buildings, there's a potential for, I don't know, 200 and I did the math at one point, $260,000 worth of a tax deduction. So that's the amount that the town has the ability to assign to somebody. Now, in an ideal world, every vendor and every consultant and every engineer that had something to do with the energy systems would want a piece of that, right? But we don't have that. We only have one vendor, or two, but one vendor that we're contemplating ESC. So, technically the town could assign 100% of that tax deduction value to ESC. That's one option, or something less than 100% of it. My suggestion was only to sort of try to equate the tax deduction earned by ESC to the work that qualifies for it, the control system. But there's no regulation and there's no guideline. Honestly, the town can assign whatever they want. And I think to John's point, they must have had a value in mind when they offered the $5,000 in compensation.
Right.
So it's probably more than 5,000, and it's probably more than, maybe 50,000. Maybe they're looking for 50,000. I don't know, in order to make that $5,000 offer make sense.
So
is there any way of us, Geraldine, getting down to what we think the value of the ESC work was?
I'm sure that someplace in the documentation on, well, I'm not sure, someplace in the documentation on the construction costs, we should be able to ascertain what the value of the ESC work in the control system is. So we'll have to ask Rizzo to dig into the Action Air bids to see if that's broken out, or if there's a way that we can figure out what portion of the action, we know what the Action Air contract is for the HVAC systems. ESC is a subcontractor to them on the controls. So, we could probably figure that out, estimate it, or find the exact number.
I think I'd make that recommendation, that we try to get a ballpark number of what it is. So at least we're being fair. So if someone else did come back, we could also evaluate it from there. Not that, I hear you, we could give them all of it, but I don't think that would be, appropriate if someone else had asked.
All right, so let me work on with Rizzo on figuring out what the value of for each school, what the value of the ESC controls contract is worth.
okay,
Yeah,
and then
thank
from
you.
there,
This proposal is for both schools. It's on the
Okay.
cover, it's on the front of
the cover,
Yeah,
right? Okay,
I think that'd be appropriate because we are talking about both.
right. And then we can, from there, since it seems like John Perna, were they in contact with you with this offer of the 5,000?
Yeah, but I think to keep it on a professional level, I think somebody from the team should call them. This way everything is documented.
But I think that, so once we come up, so I think step one is to come up with a valuation, as Geraldine said, what, and you know, what Roy was saying too, of an amount that we're going to use as how much of a percentage of that they may get, or what is the amount that whole energy consumption total figure is, and what part of it was ESC. And then what Geraldine is saying, that it needs to be someone from the town who, and it would be us as a commission, I think, that would make the decision of what percentage goes to them. But in between, we would want to know, where did they come from? How did they come up with that figure, and what were they looking at? So who's going to make that contact? And I think it may also still need to be someone from the town. Thoughts?
I don't know if Geraldine has any contacts there with the SC. I mean, you know.
Yeah, so I'd want to know who John talked to, first of all.
That's what I was wondering.
And because I really don't have any contact, you know, at an upper level where this decision would be made at ESC, I think. I could, and I'm willing to pursue that. I'm not sure that I'm the right person to do that.
Yep. I'm just trying to find someone just to at least ask the questions.
And I think that it can come from the commission or a member or members of the commission as perhaps a subcommittee, once we get some kind of figures together.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's a good idea, Nancy. Let's see what the figures are and get an approximate amount of what we think it is, and then maybe we can contact the ESC people ourselves and just say, what were you guys looking at?
Okay. Anybody else have any other either questions or input on this?
I think we get the figure. I'm willing to, once you get the figure, I'm willing to email it to them, and I'll CC Nancy and Roy, or Nancy and Geraldine, however you want me to.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah.
That's good,
I
John.
don't think
Thanks.
it's worth it to do anything else until you combine those two figures from the two schools and we approach them with that.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Okay. So we got a plan. Yeah?
For the
Okay.
Yep.
Yep, for the tax credits. Budget review.
All right, budget review. So at Johnson, after booking last meeting's requisition for March and the invoices that were approved, we are at Johnson billed out to 89% of the total project cost and 93% of the construction value. And as you can see, we are still carrying over 1.4 million in contingency associated with Johnson School. And at Rockwell, we are billed out 91% on the total project and 93% on construction completion, and are running about 488,000 past our contingency at Rockwell. And when we look at it as a combined project, we are currently, again, with PCOs to consider today, additional fee requests that we're still carrying on this analysis, boiler room floor abatement, and then some credits credits on some budget line items that I don't think will be used. We are currently at about $465,700 under total budget for the two schools currently. Now, this does not include, so I will say that there are some PCOs the PCOs that we're anticipating. I think there probably are a couple more PCOs out there still to come in, and there was something, well, this new technology equipment is not accounted for here, but again, should be small amounts. That's where we are today. Any questions on any budget issues?
I had a question and then it went right out.
Yeah.
But it'll come back. It'll come back. Oh, so there was that email about Eversource and the credits for the energy
Yes, the
savings,
energy
blah, blah, blah.
incentive. Yes.
Yeah. So how does that get accounted for? It's not anything that they don't send us a check kind of thing.
I'd have to, I didn't really dig in. I should have, if I had known we were going to bring this up. I think that the town or the district has had options when they signed up for the energy incentives. But what I've seen in the past typically is they take it as a credit against future energy usage.
Right.
Although I did once have a private client who did get a lump sum check. So I'd have to go back and see what the agreement states.
Right.
But in any case, it doesn't really, you don't really want it to hit this budget because the state doesn't like double dipping. So if they see that you received a grant, received money in for something like an energy credit, they tend to want to reduce your grant approval amount by the same amount, because in fact, those energy incentives are at least partially funded by the state of Connecticut. So it's kind of like, you got money going in and coming out, and yeah, so.
Okay.
So I think that would stay totally kind of off this budget anyways.
Right. And I think in past projects, I think it's been a credit towards future energy bills. So it may be the same.
And I'll check that out, because I did, as part of this, this exercise of trying to figure out who was going to sign off on that stuff, I did look at the original application, and I think it says in there. So I'll nail that down.
Okay.
A quick question. I know I've asked this before. Again, looking into that crystal ball, I would think at this point, change orders should be few and far between at this point. I know we're talking about a couple technology updates and so forth, but we shouldn't be seeing anything major in change orders at this point, should we? I would hope not, because we're at a point where
I don't think so.
Outside landscaping.
The numbers that I have here on the line that says pending review are PCOs that we've received and are still either negotiating or waiting for additional information back from the contractors.
Okay.
We have not seen a new PCO. I think that we've covered everything. There were some PCOs associated, for instance, with the redesign of the Johnson vestibule. Those I think we've all processed, or at least have accounted for. Unless Ken can think of anything, I think the answer to that question at our last OAC meeting was no, we don't know of anything else that's still to come in. So they should be small in terms of hitting that remaining contingency.
All right, beautiful. Thank you.
And speaking of change orders.
Okay.
Time to look at those.
So regular change orders, we'll start with the sort of the normal course of change orders. At Johnson School, we have 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and at Rockwell, we have one change order, and then the ESC change orders that we'll talk about. So this is change order 88. This has been batted back and forth and negotiated over a little bit of time. There were there were some changes, and there are pending change orders in this, sort of in the same vein. There were changes required to the phenolic panel, curtain wall systems in various places, primarily due to existing conditions. This one is the curtain wall that is at, Ken talked about it earlier, it's at the end of the existing classroom wing towards the back of the school. There was existing structure that prevented that curtain wall and panel system from being installed as was drawn. And so one thing that we did in negotiating this change order is we got, or Ken Rizzo got Massey to use existing material, attic stock material, leftover material, in order to fill in the new panels that we needed, in order to make this curtain wall work. So we were able to reduce the cost on this. I think this one started out, it says in the PCO log, I try to note where the number started out and where we're at today. But as Ken noted, this work is all complete. It included redoing the panels in the curtain wall. Acronym must have done some masonry work associated with this opening, and the value, which we're recommending that you accept for this change order, is $6,782.58. And if we need a better explanation, which we very well might, either Ken or Joe will have to provide it.
The only thing I'd add is that the curtain wall window itself had to be modified and changed. So that was part of Mass's Glass's costs. And we had a high cost from Verdi, and we decided to go with Acoustics, who is much more reasonable for the framing. They needed framing behind the phenolic panels.
So the largest amount is Massey. So was it a glass panel or a phenolic panel or some of both?
It's a little bit of both. The curtain wall system couldn't fit in the opening unless the curtain wall was modified. And then after modification, there had to be some phenolic panel infill.
Right, okay, yep. So we can discuss this further, but I'll make a motion that we approve change order number 88.
Yes.
For Johnson School in the amount of $6,782.58. Second by Dave Olson. So do we have more information or questions anybody needs?
I'm good.
Are we good?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done.
Thank you. Also at Johnson, in the front vestibule, we did not have a power. We did not have any power and an outlet for the visitor management, the Raptor visitor management system. So we needed to install an outlet or power to the kiosk. And it's Ferguson, so it's automatically $1,100 per receptacle. So $1,166.30. This work is complete.
But it's not just the receptacle. They had to run power from somewhere to there.
Yeah, not very far though.
And Ken, did we do any haggling with them as best we could?
I got him to use his unit price, but he still have a few hours. He had some, it wasn't like a standard outlet because he had to go up through the wood ceilings.
Yep.
It's just another one of those Ferguson things.
Yep.
It's in line with their other additional technical work, so.
Yeah.
Wouldn't expect anything less.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion that we approve proposed change order number 126 at Johnson School.
I'll second it.
And receptacle, blah, 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 $1,166.30. Who seconded it? John Menti?
Horvath.
Horvath. Okay, thank you, David. Any more questions on this? I think I might have to become an electrician. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed?
Aye,
So who was that?
that's Jim Monero opposed.
Okay,
We approve this one, that's fine. Going forward, if these things aren't absolutely necessary, should we wait and have them done later on by someone else that isn't going to charge us $1,200?
that's a good point. I know this work is already done, correct?
Yes.
It is.
And the system is tied into it, so that's a good point.
Dino, I'm in complete agreement with you, but yeah, it was already unfortunately done. If it wasn't, I would.
No, that's why we approved this one, but I'm saying going forward.
Absolutely. No, I agree. We'll get the town to take, we'll do something else.
Okay, so we had Bob opposed, correct? Or Dino, you're,
No, I voted for it.
okay, all right. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
And another one.
We also have 127 at Johnson last week or last meeting when we talked about the additional cleaning costs. Ken did let us know that there were also additional dumpster costs and rental for the porta potty at which was at Johnson. So this should clean up all of that additional sort of general conditions or general requirements costs. There's backup here of all the tickets, the days they pulled the dumpsters, the cost to have them pull the dumpsters, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is the additional costs total $1,954.60.
Motion to approve.
So Dave Olson makes a motion to approve. Anybody second?
Second.
Roy seconds. Question. So you saying, Geraldine, this should tie it up. Does this mean that this takes us through the end of the project?
Ken?
Yeah, right now there's probably one more dumpster, but if that would be probably it. We don't have anything else for there.
There shouldn't be
Okay, so
anything else being dumped, I think, at this point. You know, all the punch list work should not be creating dumpster trash.
So Ken, are you saying there's a dumpster there now?
It's being pulled. It was a 20-yarder that was filled up. So that one's being removed.
And that's not being taken care of on this change order, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So we will get
through February, so.
So we are going to get another dumpster cost.
There'd be one more. There's some yard stuff that when we were doing the cleanup for the open house during the week school was off, there's quite a bit of yard debris that had to go in it.
So we have a motion to approve and a second. Any more questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is anybody opposed? Done.
And the last one at Johnson is number 128 to add column caps at the new columns at the main entrance. And I'm gonna need either Joe or Ken to tell us why this was additional work at those columns. I think perhaps it has to do with the redesign of the vestibule.
Yeah, we just asked in RFI what kind of finish was needed at the top of the columns because the the beams for the columns weren't as wide as the round columns, 18-inch columns. So, you know, meant that you're gonna have some kind of a opening up top. And so this was what took care of that issue.
Okay, and so Joe, is that because of the redesign of that vestibule and main entrance area?
No, I don't think that was the cause. I think it was just not shown in the documents that there should be it's basically a flashing at the top of the columns to prevent any moisture, animals, or anything to get into the top of the GFRC column enclosures.
Okay.
Okay, then.
I'll make a motion that we proceed with paying that.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve from Roy, a second from Dave Olson. Are there any other questions on this change order? And is this all, this is completed, right? Because that was all looked finished to me when, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, done. So that's Johnson, right? We have got one for Rockwell.
We have one for Rockwell. This is in room 210 on the second floor. The direction and the location of a drain line from the roof, an auxiliary drain line, had to be changed because of intervening structure, I think. So this increased the length of drain pipe, put a couple of bends in it, just more material, more labor. We did get a credit for the pipe that was not installed. Again, this kind of went back and forth, was not reduced a great deal, but it was negotiated, and this is the number where it ended up with from Ferguson Mechanical. $10,156.30.
Is it gold pipe? Jesus.
It's just a lot of pipe. You know, instead of being about 30 feet, it probably was 3 times that, I'm guessing, based on how they had to route it.
Well, that's $100 a foot.
Yeah, there is a, I think the drawing is on here.
I think I'm gonna become a drain line guy instead of electrician now.
Yeah. The original length was this. You can barely see this very light. set of
Yeah, they can see it.
lines here. And they
Yep.
ended up having to run it all the way down here, over here, and then exit the building there.
Was this done on overtime, straight time? Like, I'm really having a hard time, $10,000 with this, sorry.
Yep. Well, there's my credit. There was another credit. So labor. Where is it? Labor, 68 hours and 68.65 labor hours plus a foreman to run this pipe. So most of it is in the labor.
And again, it had to get changed because of, it had to go, it couldn't go through existing structure because they can't drill through block probably. Or why did it have to get changed?
Yeah, I don't know. Did Joe or Ken, do you remember? This was a while ago. I don't know if anybody remembers exactly what the structure issue was.
There's a lot of coordination with the FCUs in the room and the other services going through.
So it wasn't so much structure as other ducts and equipment and piping that was there.
Typical of Rockwell.
Yep. So it looks like $4,000 worth of material, you know, $6,000 or $7,000 worth of labor, $7,000 worth of labor. then we got the credit of $2,400 for the original pipe run and labor. And that's where we got to the $10,156.30.
I saw, can you scroll that up a little bit? I saw something about drilling through the PCB wall. Did they had it? No, a little farther. Right there. Core drilling, PCB contaminated wall. 3,900? Or am I reading that wrong?
Well, no, the 3,900 is all of the materials, but yes, there's a comment there that, and perhaps that's why the labor hours were higher. I don't know why it took them 68 hours to do that work, because they had to drill through PCB walls. Definitely a premium, a reason for the premium.
Is there any abatement tied to this as well?
No.
Yeah, I'm not buying it.
Not buying which part?
The cost of that, there's no way it took them 68 hours to install that kind of a line for that little of a distance. I was in the field for years. That there's no way in God's green earth it takes that long. Unless there was major obstacles, which I don't know about.
So if we go back to the drawing. It doesn't look.
I don't see really any elevation changes that are affecting it except for the TY at the end.
See, that's why I asked about abatement, because maybe he had to wait for, you know.
Right. Right. I'm glad you caught that too, Bob, because that would have made the difference.
So where would there be a wall that they had to go through?
I don't see one.
For the overflow drain.
Okay. Got it.
To the top.
Yep. All right, team, what are we gonna do here?
Well, I'll make a motion to pay it, and then, you know, we'll either vote it up or down, you know?
Okay, so it makes a motion to approve whatever number it is, 128, 120. What number is it?
Sorry, it's 128.
Okay,
The amount of
$10,156.30. Got a second?
Second.
Dino seconds it.
Okay, any further discussion, though? Just a question back for Ken or Jim. Is there any further negotiations with this, or is this basically where it is?
We went back to them a couple times.
Yep.
And it took off a little bit. So I don't know that I could get any more from them.
Right.
Is this work that's already been done?
Yes.
When was it done?
I think it was February, maybe, or is that what?
Yeah, February 9th or 19th, I think it said.
Yeah, the bill's from February, but it might have even been, it was before that. This
Yeah.
was done
Way before, I'm
way-
sure.
Yeah, way before. I'd have to go back to the original. Looks like they dated everything. This RFI was from August of 2019. So I'm guessing it happened in the fall of 2019.
And we're just getting it now.
Yep, sometimes when we push back and say, renegotiate it, it goes to the bottom of the pile, I think, so,
I hear you, Geraldine. I understand that.
yeah.
Are there other Ferguson ones that are coming up too, or is this, kind of the last of them?
There's one other there's a similar one for another auxiliary drain that comes out of the PE storage room. Similar thing where they had to run the line a different length. In this next PCO, which we have not finalized yet, it's actually a shorter run, which is what we're looking for. We're going back and forth now about what's the amount of the credit that they owe us. But I think that those are the only, I believe those are the only mechanical one, Ferguson Mechanical, so plumbing PCOs that are still out there. Yeah, in fact, at Rockwell, you can see number 70 here at the top, another auxiliary drain issue having to be rerouted. That's only for 1,600. The other two PCOs that are out there is for some carpentry work in the cafeteria that we're still asking for additional information from Verdi on. And then a new one, which is a new railing at the platform landing that we just haven't processed yet. So we should be done with Ferguson Mechanical and at Rockwell.
Right.
Is there any explanation on where all that labor was?
Yeah, I mean, he would point to the linear footage on his breakout and our program. It's basically the computer program that he uses for his change orders, similar to his electrical change orders.
Yeah.
So this is,
By linear foot, and they give you the units.
Is that the same for the other ones as well?
Yeah, for the most part, all of their change orders are done by software.
Yeah.
but you're saying that this is work that was completed and you've got, and so Kathy, you need to note that this is change order 63. I think I had said 128, but that was wrong.
Oh, yeah.
The tickets have hours on there and stuff, so. Or are there tickets, or is it just that?
What happens is when they have their linear footage and other materials, at the last column, it shows how the hours are figured. So like that last column are all the hours all the way down, and then at the very bottom will be the hours for all that material. I think it's at the bottom of the sheet.
Yeah.
It's all PVC. It's not like they were welding cast or something like that,
Correct.
right?
Right.
Geraldine, just something I saw, the line number 8, they insulated, that was an insulated pipe as well?
Yep.
Okay. Just want to make sure I saw what I thought I saw.
And it looks like that's where a lot of the labor was. So, 18 hours out of the 57 and a half here was in insulation. So
Wrapping the pipe.
Yep.
All right, do we have any other questions on this or anything else? Or do you want to vote on it?
Yep. Let's call the motion.
All right, so all in favor?
I'll vote in favor of it to get them out of our hair.
Is anybody opposed?
Yes.
So that's Dave Horvath, yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anybody else?
Dave-O?
Dave Olson is also opposed.
So am I, Nance.
And John Menti is opposed.
I was, but Roy put out a good point. Let's get him out of our hair. Especially me, I have none.
I don't have much.
Roy,
I don't have much either.
John Perna, me, and Gil. So it's 5-3 or 6-3, I guess.
Okay.
All right, so it does pass. Okay. So then we have some things to look at, which are not changes to the GMP.
Correct.
But on the other side of the line of money, and This is from ESC, and tell us about this one.
Yes, so this is ESC audio visual. Oh, you know what? I should have pulled up the photos. I'll look for them if my explanation is not adequate. Was scheduled to be a rack system mounted on a wall behind the platform, so behind stage in the Rockwell gym. And the piece of wall where it was meant to be mounted, and in fact, where the power and the data come to, it is sort of snuck in between a column and then a railing, because there is a ramp to access the backstage area that requires a railing because of the drop off in height. And when ESC went to install the rack, there was not enough room to install it and provide the access that then would be needed to load that rack with equipment. So the only solution, because of the tight quarters back there and the position in which the junction boxes were installed, and not really coordinated with the AV system, the only solution was to take that rack, not mount it on the wall, put casters on it, provide a flexible whip so that they can still get the connection for the data and the power to that rack that holds the equipment from where the junction boxes have been installed on the wall. We had this reviewed by D'Agostino, and they looked at both the conditions on site and the difficulties of accessing the rack based on where it was supposed to be located on the wall, and agreed that this was the most cost-effective way to address the lack of space to maneuver and open the rack. So this is a change request in the amount of $1,230 to make this equipment, in fact, usable by the school.
So is it something that we have already, or is it something new that's having to be?
So the rack that we already own is part of this, and it is just the labor and the materials to put casters on the bottom of it, and then the wiring connection that needs to go to the wall.
And so it makes it so it's movable, but it should also make it.
It's
Oh,
not.
it has-
So we did a similar thing, if you recall, in the music room, where there was too much
Right,
on the wall
okay.
to put the rack on.
Yep.
It says, I mean, they're putting casters on it, but it's not like it's mobile, because it's still connected to the wall with a cord.
Right, because it's got to stay in place. It doesn't need to be moved.
Right, they do need to access both sides of it, which is one reason why it's on casters. Part of the problem with putting it on the wall is that they couldn't access they couldn't
The other
open
side.
it, to access the back of it,
Right.
because of the space configuration.
Make a motion to approve it.
I'll second that. Any other questions on this, comments,
Nope.
any of that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? We are done with that one. And then are we going to go back to the one that John Perna brought up initially? Because this was sent around to everyone as part of the documents.
So I guess my question is, do we deal with this as well, or do we wait and find out whether it's going to be tied to the tax credit question?
Right. Huh.
I mean, I think, well, my opinion would be to decide whether this is needed or useful kind of on its own, and then we'll figure out how to pay for it, whether it's going to be tied to the tax credit negotiation.
Right. So I think we start about it. So let's get input. I think, John's looking at something like this in his school system. And Bob, you were saying, and I think it kind of came up at the OAC meeting last week too.
Yeah. Well,
I guess
one question I have is, after the 19th, I may not have to have the controls all modified. I may be able to go back in some
So they're
form of
gonna-
in normal.
A button that you'll just click on, and you'll go back to automatic mode and take it off of manual.
Oh, okay.
Included in on this.
Oh, okay.
So if
Thanks,
the
John.
guidelines change, all you have to do is to go to the graphics and take it out of manual, and then everything will go back to automatic globally, all your units.
Perfect.
So I think, myself personally, I think we should approve it tonight. So Bob has the ability that if he gets hit with a humid day, that he could adjust it. It's easy to take for granted now when the humidity is only 15, 20%,
Yep.
but that's not gonna be forever. And then we could sort it out later how we're gonna pay for it.
Yeah, I agree. And also the other thing, which I know people don't think about, but with my company, there's a lot of printing going on. When the copiers and stuff and the paper gets above 60% humidity, they start jamming like crazy. So there's a ton of things that can lead up to other issues down the road. And this price isn't out of the norm for what I'm used to.
So if this is for both schools, do we need to have them separate the amounts? So one is for one school and the other's for the other school?
Only when they invoice. They
Okay.
need to invoice separately, but I think you
Right.
can deal with this in total right now.
Mm. And so, Bob Germanero, are you seeing that, like, and John Perna, I guess, too, is it something you can switch back and forth if needed?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're saying possibly you might not need it after, but you might. So then it makes it easier to make those adjustments and not have to be fiddling around with the systems
Well,
on your own.
My understanding is that I may have to do it individually once we go back to normal. But this way here, this will be a global, as John said. They all will respond to that same command.
Got it. That helped. That's a good explanation for me. Thanks. I mean, you guys know a lot more about it.
Am I right on that, John?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
And so there's a possibility that throughout the rest of this school year, you may need it on and off, so to speak. Because you don't, and I think we talked a little bit, or it was discussed by a few people at the OAC meeting, where you don't want the systems to be causing both system problems plus systems within the school's building itself.
No, Nancy, I think what we're talking about was when or if we turn the AC on.
Right.
And if we turn the AC on during this modification period, are we going to bump heads with the controls?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
That was the question we brought up.
Okay. All right. So we could, if we do approve this now, it's going to be coming out of obviously that Johnson contingency, because there's no other place for it to come from. But it could become then part of if what ESC is kind of offering, and we don't know exactly yet, is a credit for future work, then if we take care of it before we're invoiced for this, it could be part of it. I'm assuming.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
FYI, I think they're looking to try to get a service contract. That's my feelings for the
Okay.
future.
That could be. Mhm. All right. So
So just
how about
this work would not be reimbursable by the state. I mean, I can try, but it's like I'm 90% sure that they're going to reject it, as number one is reworking the control settings, and they have not been amenable to reimbursing COVID related items like this. So
that's something you can get reimbursed for in a whole different place because of COVID, or we look into that at another time?
It's possible, because I did talk many months ago with Tom Galliford about utilizing some of the town's FEMA money to cover some of the project costs, and he was kind of amenable to that. We just had never identified anything specifically that could be booked back to those grant monies. And I don't even know if there's any left, but
Right.
But just process wise, I would submit this as a change order, but the likelihood of the state accepting it is extremely low. So if that, not that that factors into wanting to spend the money, so.
Right. I think it should not factor into it, but it's worth a try. So I am going to make the motion to approve the EFC proposal for pandemic mode button on controls for both Rockwell and Johnson. And the total amount for both schools for $6,580.
I'll second.
Amount to be, that was seconded from who?
Horvath.
Dave Horvath, thank you. Any further discussion? I think we've kind of got all the info we need to make a good decision on this.
Yep.
All in
So
favor? Wait, John, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. So they're,
Okay.
they're only a sub. Who will contact them? I'll gladly do it, but I prefer to copy somebody else if I'm gonna do it. He sent it
Well,
to me. It's up to you.
right, and
I mean,
you asked,
What I've
Go
done
ahead.
with other owner vendors is just, say, I contact them and say that the building committee has approved the proposal.
Oh, okay,
Work
good.
and let
All
me
right, so
know.
Geraldine will.
Yeah, let me know what the
Okay.
schedule is, and then I can coordinate when the invoices come in and out, where do they go to. So
Excellent.
I can do
Okay.
that. Especially
That
if you got somebody here as a contact, I can do that.
that's good, because I think, John Perna, you were the one that asked them for the proposal?
Yeah, Rob was at the training when me and Dave went there.
Right, okay. Yep.
He's the account rep, so.
All right, so Geraldine could do the contact. She can CC
Yep,
John and David,
Yep.
just so, they know what's going on, right?
Excellent.
Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there anybody opposed? Okay, we're good with that.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it was good that you guys were there at that training.
I'm sorry I missed that training. I had a death in the family, so I had to be
Oh, sorry to hear
pulled away
that.
for that.
That's
Sorry to hear
more
that.
important, Bob.
Yep, not a problem.
What's next? Oh, professional services, additional service requests. We are continuing to throw numbers around, not really throw them around, but, go through a lot of the requests, the documentation, gonna hopefully have a decision sometime soon. So we can move a little bit further forward with this. So that's where we are with that. And invoices are next.
Yes.
And we have a bunch of them.
We do.
So,
So how about we start with Perkins Eastman?
surely, let me just get them out so I can mark them off as we go through them. Yep, there we go. Okay, so I will make a motion to approve Perkins Eastman invoice number 68962.07.0-1 for Johnson School extended services, extended construction administration services in the amount of $39,971.75.
Second.
So I got a second from somebody, Roy, I think,
Dave,
and Dave, Roy and Dave. And so just you can see up at the top there. But also if you hopefully look through the documents as they were sent out, this is from December. So it's for the month of December, the month of January, the month of February, the month of March. So they had not invoiced us up until this point. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are done with that.
And
So we stick with Johnson, maybe?
yes, this is, yes.
Okay, and I'll make a motion that we approve invoice from Perkins Eastman, again, invoice number 68962.05.0-3 for Johnson washer dryer in the amount of $480.
second,
Second from Dave Olson. And then is this the total amount? I think it is. So that's the last invoice on this one?
No, there's.
Or, no, we got one more, got a little bit more. Yep,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, I see the 32. Yep, okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done. And one more Johnson. Base from Perkins Eastman, number 68962.06.0-4 for the Johnson retaining wall in the amount of $1,200.
This one is complete, so.
This is the last of this one.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, and I made so Dave's got a second. I made the motion. Dave's got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? So now Rockwell or Perkins Eastman. So I make a motion, we approve Perkins Eastman invoice number 68961.06.0-1. And again, this is for Rockwell and the extended construction administration services in the amount of $23,574.50.
Make a motion to approve it.
All right, I made the motion to approve. I need a
Okay,
second.
second that.
All right, Roy's got a second. And again, this is the same as the first one for Johnson, December through end of March. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Done. And then we got the Rockwell washer dryer. So I make a motion that we approve Perkins Eastman invoice number 68961.05.0-3 Rockwell washer dryer in the amount of $480.
second,
Dave Ocean seconds. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Done. Okay, so we've got STV, we got STL, we got
You got STL?
pick. Just pick one. Yeah, STL. Let me get it. Oops. If I can find it. Yep, here we go. So Special Testing Laboratories, I make a motion that we approve invoice number 35261 in the amount of $1,148.50.
Second.
Roy seconds. Is this like, are we done with them yet? I thought we were, but
So this was still inspections that, concrete, obviously having to do with the, now I'm thinking with what at Rockwell?
I mean, this is due date 4/30,
Yeah.
so it's got to be March. Was
Here's
it?
for the sound screen.
Oh. So there is some field review, but there's also a concrete one.
Yeah, there's some concrete testing.
And concrete and rebar from March. When did we do concrete at the end of March?
Should this be for Rockwell? I mean, should this be for Johnson?
They did the piers for the sound screens at the chiller.
Oh, that's right. The foundations that had to be put in for the screens around the chiller.
Oh, right. And that was end of March. Okay,
That's right.
got it. Okay, good.
And we're not quite done with them because they will have some pavement inspection
Compacting,
and
right.
poly compaction when we go to
Yep.
do the stuff at Johnson.
Right, okay. All right, any more questions about this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Done. What's next?
STV.
Okay. Make a motion that we approve invoice from STV DPM, invoice number 90020-547 from the amount of $10,374. And this is for, well, pretty much March.
Yeah.
Yep. I need a second.
I'll second it.
All right, Bob seconds. Any questions? It's got, if you look at all these, it's got the, hours and things like that on the attached pages, but we don't need to look at that here because it's something y'all can look at on your own. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done. And then we have invoice from STV DPM, invoice number 90020-548 for Rockwell School in the amount of $5,096. Second from Dave Olson, and again, for the month of March with all the documentation attached. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Done. We have a couple more.
Do Fairfield County Landscaping.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we approve invoice number 12924 from County Landscaping for Johnson School in the amount of $2,500.
Second that.
Dave Olson seconds, Roy thirds. So this is the work they did on that hillside.
Correct.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Done. And then we got E+, right?
Yes, we also have. We do, yeah, we have E+. So let's look at that one.
So
this is for, so 2 years ago, we paid for all of the network equipment and all of the pieces of equipment that they had to procure. This is their total installation cost for Johnson. So this is for installing network equipment, wireless access points, uninterruptible power sources. It is the total of their installation work. The only thing that they have not done is the wireless survey at Johnson in the amount of $4,090. They are going to resubmit this invoice in the correct amount, but because this actually has, I've been holding this since December because they had small pieces of work left to do, and just so to get some payment to them, I said that I would bring it up to the committee and ask for you to approve the installation minus the wireless survey. And then as soon as those revised invoice comes, the town could be ready to pay it instead of waiting even longer. So if you would be so kind.
So the total amount is that 31,000.
31,553. Yep.
That's what we're going to approve tonight.
Yes.
And Geraldine, that's all part of the contract. So the contract amount was what, the 20 or the 35.6? Is that what it
Correct.
was?
That's
Okay,
correct. Yep, that's their purchase order total would be that installation amount.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we approve the E Plus invoice number V 241644 in the amount of $31,553,
I'll second that.
as explained by Geraldine. So Bob seconds it. Any other questions on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? So that, I know the ESC ones that you and I were talking about, Geraldine, we're holding because they still need to do some stuff. But
They
the lobby
do.
reader, is that an invoice or is that a
So, yeah, I know, it looks like the quote. So we could,
and is it part of any of these other invoices that I have or no?
it is not, because this was an additional service. So the card reader at the front door of Johnson was to be located on the curtain wall frame on the ballistic glass assembly. And apparently dimensionally, the card reader would not fit on that frame. So they had to find a new place to put it. It ended up being located onto a column within the vestibule. So this is a change in scope. They had to drill into the column. They had to run wires into this column instead of into the door frame. This is the additional service to they didn't so much relocate it as install it in a different place than was shown on the drawing. So this obviously is, I guess this is a quote.
Because it says proposal in the terms and conditions.
Yeah.
So are we going to get an invoice for it? I don't know. Do we?
So, and you're right. I kind of thought this was the invoice, but it does say proposal. So I'm willing to wait until the invoice comes and then we can approve it. This work was done last week, but let's wait and get an official invoice from them.
Okay. I think that sounds like because their invoices look different and they have them notarized.
Yeah,
So
I think that was my misinterpretation. And those other invoices we'll deal with at the next meeting because
they're for the month of April.
Right. They're because those other invoices were security related, and we're just now finishing up the security. It's been finished at Johnson just recently. It'll be finished at Rockwell by the time of the next meeting. So
okay,
we'll hold those.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay, so that's invoices. And does anybody have anything else that they have thought about or came up for them with questions for our team on the school projects before we move along? Anybody? We're all good?
Nancy, I'd like to give you a quick update. We're currently right now doing the washer dryer hookups for both schools. And they were there today. The electrician was there today mapping out the electrical lines for both dryers. And the plumber's coming in Friday to scope out what's going to be needed for the water hookups. So that's in motion right now.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
That's all.
Anything else?
No.
Yep. Okay. Anything else? Anybody have anything else?
Nope.
Okay. So then building committee members got to stick around because we have to complete a few things, and all the rest of the team, I think we're good. So there's an OAC meeting next week, which will update everybody on what's going on construction wise. And then our next meeting is May 11th, I think. So we would see, I mean, Joe's coming out Thursday. I don't know if other either construction or the team members need to be part of that, or whether Joe's just doing his punch list thing.
Joe is just doing his punch list thing. I couldn't meet him on Thursday afternoon. It just didn't work. It didn't work schedule wise. So
Yep.
we'll get an update. I'll update some other time.
Okay. And so we're good to go with everybody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you.
And everyone-
Good night, everyone.
Bob, you got to stick around. Bob and Dave Olson, you got to stick around.
Oh,
Don't go away.
Okay.
Because we're gonna go into executive session. So everybody's gone. Kathy's gonna, do I have to make the motion first? I can't remember. Make a motion that we go into executive session and just have it be us, but we'll invite Kathy in.
Because we
So
like,
then, so I need a second and we need to vote on it, I guess.
second,
So Dave Horvath seconds, they're all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, done, good. Okay. Turn. So we're coming out of executive session with no action taken, except for Kathy's cat wandering in front of the computer. And so, as I had said, our next meeting, public site meeting is May 11, and there's an OAC meeting next week on May 6th. If anybody wants to be a part of it, Geraldine sends that information out. And we're finishing up with school stuff unless anybody has any other input or questions before we lose Dave Olson and Bob.
Thank you.
Good.
Night.
All right, thank you.
All
Good
right.
night. Good night.
Thank you.
thank you, gentlemen.
Yep. Good night,
Thank
guys.
you.
All right.
Bye.
So, police station. So, Perkins Eastman, Downs wanted to start by August or by April 26th, which was yesterday. And I haven't gotten an update. I've had Jeff Anderson ask me several times. I know there was some, so Downs sent their letter, which I think I forwarded to everybody, along with a letter from Brian Hume saying, yep, this is what we're going to do. And now it's on the town's part and the attorneys to say, okay, fine, get started. I don't know what's taking so long.
Huh.
So I would like to see it. I think it's getting to the point where it's warm enough consistently, but I don't want it to get too warm, because when it's too warm and humid, you run into problems too. So I've got to put a letter or an email out to Matt, Marty, Attorney Robinson, and say what's going on. And I'm also supposed to go to the Board of Selectmen meeting next week, so I'll ask them at that point too. Because the only thing I can say to Jeff Anderson and Downs is like, I don't know. So
Yeah, it's a little bit up to them, yeah.
let's get moving along. And so that's the police station. And then I think I told you that the municipal center renovation, I had an email from Matt Knickerbocker asking, what was the estimate or what costs that were assigned to not the whole entire locker room part, but just that lobby area that we last were looking at, redoing the bathrooms, the entry door to the GP room, just that whole lobby. And I told him I was remembering a 50 number, but we also had assigned a number with the help of the architect to what it would take to have the architect do their construction administration part. I still haven't found that. But John Menti had an interesting concept that, John, why don't you tell
Sure.
us? We can only see the top of your head, but that's okay.
I don't want to fall asleep and hit my head on the computer thing,
Okay.
Well, if this project goes on, and I don't know if it will, and we had the architect draw up a lot of specifications and information about materials and types of materials and so on and so forth, which is still, I think, very usable. But and I've never had any involvement with it, and maybe either John or Dave might have, something maybe how looking at, again, this is an idea of design build concept. I know the state likes that for their projects now, because it puts the entire onus on the builder who designs it. Now, we have a lot of information that can be shared of minimum standards and style, type of design we like, and they can come back. And again, nothing we have to decide tonight, but maybe a design build concept may not be a bad way to go with this.
As long as we have detailed prints of the building and they're up to date, that wouldn't be a bad idea. I've done multiple design builds in my career and they've worked out pretty well.
Yeah. So what we have, Dave, is, we never got a chance, because I think we talked about this a whole year ago and then COVID.
Yeah.
We actually have an architect had drawn up, we started with that whole wing of the municipal center down to the gym. So the locker rooms, and then the added in the GP room lobby, and then it got cut back to just the GP room lobby, the bathrooms there. Because there's two parts of it, kind of. The Park and Rec, when they run programs whenever, are kind of in charge of that end of the building when the building's open, especially in nice weather when the building is open outside.
Yep.
So they need bathroom space, and they also need the locker rooms to be there. I don't know, back in the 50s, the last time those locker rooms were touched. And, it came up, as very, very important back in 2011, 2012, when we had Hurricane Irene and Storm Sandy. Space was used as a shelter for a couple of weeks. And people had to use those locker rooms where they keep them as clean as they can. They're just kind of stained and old. But people were actually living there. And so as a shelter, they wanted to try to upgrade it. And the cost was kind of higher. And so they cut the project in half. What they're looking at now, and the reason that Matt contacted me was, I guess, one of the newer sort of infrastructure plans coming down from the federal government to the state to local has some monies that might be available. And back before we started getting really involved in the police station, before we just had schematic designs, there was money that came down, and you had to have a shovel ready project, and the chief didn't understand that shovel ready means you've got your book of construction documents and your 1,000,000 pages of plans, and we hadn't gotten that far yet. We hadn't paid for that. So if there's money to be had and it has to be shovel ready, which we kind of have to figure that out, there needs to be kind of a plan in place, and I think we need a little bit more direction from whoever's going to be, if there's grants that are going to be coming or whatever, how that's going to be applied for. Just like we had a grant for the South Street Fire Station, and how did that come down? But I think that the idea of design build in a smaller project like this might be more kind of like it's not going to be millions of dollar project. We don't need all these different components and parts as far as a construction team.
It could be a lot more feasible to get it done on a quicker timeline as well.
Yeah.
But
so
that's it's not a bad idea, because, I think your plans are pretty good at this point.
Yeah. Yep. And what we would need is, and it would be great if you get somebody on board, because we had the RFP that we did, and then that was more than a year ago. And then Marty said it needs this, it needs that.
Yeah.
I don't write RFPs. Most of us don't write RFPs
No.
So you kind of have to cut and paste from wherever you find it on the internet. But if part of having someone work with us, as part of that design build concept, is that you have them do the RFP part and the approval part, you pay them that much, and then they're going to now do the whole entire project, and you pay them another chunk for that. Better to have professionals do a lot of that stuff.
Yep.
Now, is this going to be classified as a
prevailing wage
shelter? Not shelter, but you know what I'm talking about. Actually, what the hell? Not shelter. Well, yeah, shelter. When there's a natural disaster, it's going to be used as.
So if it was the whole entire project, including the locker rooms, yes. So, and I'm sure that which I thought that that's why Matt was looking into it, because that type of project if it's infrastructure money, then that's something that could be really considered as important. If it's
Right.
just the bathrooms, because Park and Rec needs bathrooms when they have outdoor
Right.
things going on, that's a little different. So I was surprised that he said, no, just the lobby. But I might have to check further and find out, if they need more, then the plans that we have are really only the lobby area.
Yeah, exactly.
Plans for the locker room, we just kind of like scrapped, because
Yep.
since we had added the bathrooms in the lobby, they don't need as many bathrooms in the locker rooms, and you don't need the kind of access to the locker room. So I don't know if you remember, I think Roy and John Perna, maybe you were there, or
Cut
John
back a
Mendy, you
lot.
were there too. We looked at it and said, okay, since we don't need that many bathrooms, we can make more storage space. We don't need this hallway. We can,
Yeah.
but we never finished that part of the plans because we were told not to.
So if it's
Well,
not
the
gonna be
num-
considered a place of refuge from storms and all that, is that the whole idea, was maybe get more storage and stuff? Is that what's needed more than anything else right now? Like,
No, it's a need for, so when the place is used as a shelter,
mhm,
they have cots that they have stored somewhere. The CERT volunteers come out. People actually sleep on cots in the gym.
yep,
And then they use the locker rooms for showers, etc. People may hang out there during the day because there's Wi-Fi. They can't be in their house because their house was damaged, or
right.
they have no power in their house, whatever. Or they may go to work for the day and come back, or they may go to their house and hang out for a while and come back. So the idea of having it be a shelter, I think, is more attractive to somebody wanting to give us money, but
Right.
I don't really know.
And
Dave,
that's
have you
why,
ever seen the locker rooms there?
So we got to take Dave on a tour sometime.
oh, I've seen the locker rooms.
Yeah, because I wouldn't put my dog in.
So God rest her soul, my mother-in-law went there in, was it 1957 to high school, 1955? Yeah, I've seen the
Still the same. Still the
Yes,
same.
it is. Yes, it is.
Same, yeah.
But that's kind of like my point. If it's going to be like kind of like a point of refuge, where it's going to be a shelter for natural disasters, can we kind of incorporate other stuff into it and use that all as, okay, we do need a bigger lobby because of this. We do need storage for this. We do need better showers. We do need, and we incorporate it all into one thing and say, hey, hey, federal government, can you throw a few more dollars our way?
That's possible. That's possible. I have to find out more. I think at that point when Matt asked, he was also waiting to get more information from, how do you apply for this? What are the parameters, et cetera.
I'm sure there's a lot of red tape.
Well, and grant, when you hear the word grant, you think, oh, free money, but there's a lot of paperwork and red tape.
A lot of things attached. Yep.
We got a grant for $500,000 to town to add an elevator to the South Street Fire Station because it's 2 floors, but there's no elevator. So to use the second floor, and that's another secondary shelter, to use the second floor as a meeting space, and you've got to have an elevator. So we actually got $500,000 to do the elevator, and it became a kind of, while we're at it, we might as well. So they added a little more space. The town approved that money. It was under $1 million, so it didn't have to go to referendum. But part of it was we had to hire a grant administrator. So there's a person who has to kind of watch the money.
Yep.
And they get a chunk of the grant to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we actually did that job with a general contractor. We had a set of plans that were done. We were assigned as Public Site and Building Commission. We were assigned the job after they started it. It was kind of like they hadn't started construction yet, but the plans were almost done. I think we were part of picking the general contractor. We didn't use a construction manager. And then the general contractor went belly up towards the end of the project, and we had to finish it piecemeal. So Public Works kind of got involved with we had to get 3 quotes from each thing to get it done. And it was a pain in the ass, but finally got it done.
There you go.
So I'll see about getting more info. And like I said, I have to do a report to the Board of Selectmen at their first meeting in May. I was supposed to do the first meeting in April. I sent them a report. They said the meeting's on this day, you can come. And then I forgot. Oops. So, I'll do the next one.
But it would be, that was a good idea to do a design build on what we have plans for now though, Nancy. I think that, John, I think that's a good start. I think that that would help Matt out tremendously. It'd be a good project for the town. I mean, I think it's something that I'd like to see our group endorse and see if we can at least get that first stage of it going, because it has been lingering or lagging for a long time. So.
Right.
And
I think,
especially if you can build it kind of like as a, hey, it's going to be part of a shelter for future
Well,
issues.
that's the thing about it, Dave, is that it all can be, it's not wasted. There's nothing wasted there at all. The
Right.
front foyer area is perfect, and then basically everything in back of it can get revamped from the back side and what
Right.
have you. So,
Yeah.
so it's a total win-win. I mean, there's no duplication of work or anything. So it's easily subdivided off. It's a kind of an easy project.
But it's also a great selling point to the public that, hey, we're looking out for your best interests as
It
well.
really is. It
Yeah,
comes out
yep.
nice. It gives them a couple bathrooms. It gives them an entryway. It really shows the place much better than what it is.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So,
and with a design build concept, I know in residential construction, it's usually like a company that has architects and builders, and then they hire a bunch of subs or whatever, or maybe they have their own employees. So is it kind of the same where?
I mean, you could use a Claris or someone like that to do a project like that. So,
Right. Or would you, if Peter Eckert, who did the plans, would he somehow still be involved, or would we, I don't know how that would work.
I would think we'd probably grab a builder per se to do it, and he would use the plans that he has there, hopefully work with Peter to further refine them, with where it is, but basically just move with what he's got.
I want to talk to Phil Clark from Claris.
Yep.
And see if I can get some more information from him.
But the problem is I think we were going to be over the $100,000 no matter what. So it's going to have to be prevailing wage type.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So
and I know there's some
he won't do any
companies.
municipal work.
Yeah. So that's
Well, and there's companies that won't touch prevailing wage jobs either. So
that's a lot of the
The
smaller
only-
guys won't.
back when we put it out to bid originally and got a figure from Hawley, which didn't have prevailing wage in it, unfortunately. I think they misunderstood that part. They were the only ones that put a bid in. So I think it's like there are smaller people like Steve DeMarco who will do stuff if it doesn't have to be prevailing wage.
I know.
But then you get to that point where it has to be, and you got to have all that paperwork. They don't want to do it. Then you have the sort of bigger guys like Hawley or whatever, and they don't want to touch smaller stuff.
So
Wanna deal
does
with
this
the
have to be
prevailing wage
classified
either.
as, does this have to be classified as one project? Or could you do locker room bathrooms as one project and break it up so you don't have to do prevailing wage?
Well,
I don't know what the grants and stuff would be. That's what I'm asking.
It looked like we're over, Dave, on that front foyer area.
Okay.
On that. It
Okay.
kind of was, it looks like we're
Yeah.
still gonna bump it fairly easily.
Okay.
Uh,
I just figured I'd ask. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, it's 9:55. It's bedtime.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so I'll keep you posted on whatever I hear about police station, about the municipal center. And thank
Good.
you, everybody.
Thank you.
And just
Make a
so
motion
you
to
know,
adjourn.
just so you
John made a
know, I'm gonna Perkins Eastman is doing a job for me right now. It's a $14 million job. I'll get the money back from Bethel on that job.
We're being recorded, remember?
I
So
don't.
John Menti made a motion to adjourn. Who wants to second it?
I'll second it.
Dave Horvath seconds it. All in favor? Aye.
Good night, Mary Ellen.
Take care, everybody.
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, everyone.